Hello, once again. This is Rupali, and I welcome you one more time. This is the Thai Summit
And
2020.
everything.
I can hear
Thinking big
now.
is happening.
Sridhar, if you can just mute for me because, yeah, thank you so much. Well, yes, Thai is all about entrepreneurship, all about investors. There's so many aspects under one facet to it. But you know why I think about why do you join Thai? In fact, I think you should join TIE because it's the largest network for entrepreneurs, mentoring and strong linkages for investors, networking, building connections at events, education, startup, learning, partners in policy making, domain expertise. I think there are so many variants to it that TIE has got some experts together for all of us here so that we can learn, we can have some exposure. In fact, some knowledge that we can gain from these experts here would be fantastic. Well, my audience is waiting for you guys. They all want to know that what it takes to to build high performance leadership. Yes, the next conversation, the next discussion is going to be about building high performance leadership and how to achieve this. Yes, we have some experts on the panel who are going to discuss this with you, who will share wonderful insights with you. You're free to ask your questions, you're free to make yourself available for any pointers that you want to note down. But make sure do not let this go waste because this is an extremely important session where it comes about how the high performance leadership comes into picture. And building a high performance is not easy because you have to build it from the scratch. Well, to moderate this entire session, I have Dr. Madan Mohan Rao from Your Story. If I can, Madan Mohan Rao. Oh, I just lost him.
He might join back.
I just
Yeah,
introduced you, yes, for moderating this entire session about building high performance in leadership. I have Dr. Madan Mohan Rao from Your Story. Hello, Dr. Rao. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you so much. Thanks, Rupali. Hello, Raj. Hello, Pullela
hi.
Gopichand. Can we start now? We ready to go?
Yes, the
Yes,
session is over to you. We are looking out for a very healthy and a nice, vibrating discussion here. Looking forward. Thank you. I'm going to
Thanks,
leave you.
Rupali, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to our outstanding panel discussion today on building high performance leadership. Given the volatile conditions that we are living in right now, it's very difficult for leaders to recruit, coach, mentor, groom, and retain members in their teams. Leadership is very important, whether you are in business or sport or education or government, but it's not always easy to manage different changes in culture, generation, aspirations. So, to take a look at what we can all learn from the world of sports and the world of business, we have two outstanding speakers with us. We have, first of all, Pullela Gopichand. Hello, Gopi. He's the Chief National Coach for the Indian Badminton team. He's won a range of championship awards, including the Arjuna Award, Dronacharya Award, Padma Bhushan, truly distinguished player here. He also runs the Gopichand Badminton Academy, which has produced several badminton players, including, as you guessed it, Saina Nehwal and PV Sindhu. Welcome, Gopi. Also joining us is Rajshekhara Yaryagada, who is the managing director of People Combine. He has been in education management and consultant for over 2 decades now. He has promoted dozens of schools in tier 1 and tier 2 cities across India and has won a number of awards as a business leader and as a game changer. So, my first question to both of you gentlemen is during this pandemic, what are some of the key attributes of leadership that have helped people succeed? What are some of the qualities of leadership during crisis? Let's begin with you. Gopi, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Madan. Very good evening to all of you. Uh, for us in sport, this has been a very difficult year. For many of us, the careers don't last as long as other careers. So if you are a sports person and if you're at your peak, it could last maybe 2 or 3 years. And in that time, if you lose a year's time, it's a significant amount of your career which you have lost. So for many athletes, it's pretty depressing to be in a scenario like that. Um, but sport and sports persons are ones who are able to take a lot of defeat, a lot of failure, and resilience. And that aspect has come to the fore now because there are many players who would have finished off their careers or significantly reduced their careers at the end of that year or year and a half, which we have lost because of the COVID scenario. But equally, there are many others who would have come back stronger and worked on their weaknesses to bounce back stronger at the end of the COVID scenario. So for me, it's the individual trait of staying patient, having faith, and also enjoying the process, not only looking at the goal, which is an important aspect in today's day, and especially true with this kind of scenario where we are today.
Thanks, Gopi. How about you, Raj? Now, resilience, we just heard about the importance of resilience. The education sector has taken a massive hit also during this COVID. We still don't know when schools and colleges will be back to normal, when parents will be happy and confident and secure in sending their kids to school. What is happening in the education sector, Raj? Can you share with us how leadership is affected in the education sector?
Yeah, I'll talk about education sector, but also applicable to everywhere. See, what is happening is, as Gopi said, that a lot of people, maybe sportsmen or anybody actually. So what happening is there is no clarity in what is going to happen in next 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months. So everybody lost their confidence in their own perspective and in the company perspective because of the crisis what we have experienced and this thing. So for example, they see some of their colleagues in counter companies, other parts, they're losing jobs. Though they are in a stable company, they got feeling that stress and this thing, that anxiety, stress, and that kind of thing which will lead to performance issues and this thing, health issues. So one of the key factor is the leader should instill confidence in the team always, but bit more during the crisis time. And also leaders should influence them rather than using the authority. So during this time, every time it is important to influence the people, but crisis time it is more influence rather than authority. And leaders also continuously look for to tap the new opportunities which are born because of the crisis. So that will help them manage their teams and this thing. What I mean is leaders who can convert the crisis into opportunity. That would be great for the company and also for the teams.
Thank you, Raj. Yes, you must see opportunity in adversity. That's a big quality of leadership. Now, in the beginning, I very briefly introduced both of you, but Raj, can you tell us a bit more about what is some of the work you're doing these days? What are some new projects you have in the coming year? What can we expect to see from your company, Raj?
Yeah, just briefly, we were managing Oak Ridge schools. It's the largest IB school chain in the country, and we have the largest IB school in the country. So we recently exited from that model. So now, just before the COVID, I would say accidentally lucky, and now the COVID has given new opportunities. So new thoughts and all these things. Now every business model is looking towards gravitating towards technology. So we are looking one or two opportunities in edtech. My colleague is working on that, on the edtech opportunity. I'm helping him. I'm assisting him on that. So then we have a foundation, People Combine Foundation. We do a lot of foundation activities. So one of the activity during the COVID we have done is we have contributed some money to the government. Beyond that, what we have done is when we see the migrant workers problem, so we started working on the migrant workers problem when the people are walking like hundreds of kilometers, thousands of kilometers on their own with the kids and families, this thing. So we created a campaign called Stop the Walk. So which got huge response from all over the country and this thing, especially the regions of Telangana and Andhra. And we have helped around 7,000 migrant workers to board them into buses. There were no trains at that time. So arranged special buses to reach their destination from Hyderabad to Orissa, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, up to the place of Northeast. And in return, we got some of the people from Guwahati to Karimnagar. So that's one of the things we have done from the foundation thing.
Thanks, Raj. How about you, Gopi? What are some activities you're doing at the Badminton Academy and outside as well? Any updates you can share with our readers on what you're doing today, what we can expect from you next week, next month, next year?
For me, the last few years, post my playing career, which was roughly around 2003, most of the time has been spent at the academy training athletes. We've been lucky over the years. We've got some good results at the Olympic and world level. Um, but also, one of the challenges we've always had was to grow it beyond the one center what we had, and also beyond the number of players, because the present model wasn't actually taking care of a lot of players, because as sport, and especially international sport of the highest level, you need to really dig deep and train the same set of players over many years to get the kind of results you do. So we were training number of players, but then it wasn't in the hundreds or the thousands. The sport in the last few years has grown tremendously. And what it basically meant was that we needed to move one step beyond, to have and tap in more centers across the country, and also to produce more coaches across the country, and also to have a system which actually looks uh, to see that whatever knowledge we've gained is dispersed, or which is actually used in various parts, and more players can be trained. So that's something which we've been working with. We're very lucky that with the Kotak Bank, we've been able to start. We will be starting off a center of sports science and coach the coaches program at the academy in Hyderabad. And also we will be starting off some more centers in Bhubaneswar. Some of the schools we have tied up, one in Bangalore, one in Hyderabad. So education and sport together is going to be important for the future. That's something which we are very keenly looking at, because parents don't have the time to take their kids to sport, bring them back, take them to school, bring them back. I think it's very important that we need to integrate both. And most importantly, I think over the years, one of the biggest learnings for me personally has been that the influence of sport in a life of a person is huge. And win or don't win medals, I think what you can benefit from sport itself is huge. So for that reason, I think we've looked at, in the last 30 years, we as a nation have grown alphabetically and numerically. But on the physical side, we've actually come down. So one of the areas of work is to ensure that we as a country become more physically literate, and if that's the word to be used, and to see that kids look beyond medals and start looking at sport as an integral part of their life and learning.
Thanks, Gopi. That's a very powerful message. Sport is not just about winning and losing, it's about a way of life. It's necessary for a full holistic life. Now, you mentioned briefly a while ago knowledge and education. So, my next question to you is, how much about leadership can you teach through theory, through books, through lectures, etc.? And what is it about leadership that you can only learn by doing, by being in the field, on the streets, in the field of action, for example? Where does theory end and where does practice begin for leadership? Gopi?
Um, Something as simple as going out on the street and playing. And many of us, probably in the 40s or the 50s, would probably understand this more than the younger generation, because we had the luxury of going out in the apartment block and playing. And something as simple as that has such great, powerful life lessons. And just I'll take 2 minutes to explain what I think has been such a huge revelation for me, is that I used to live in Mathushri apartments in Hyderabad. And I used to just throw the bag and go out and play. And we used to call four kids. All of us used to sit down or stand and decide whether we want to play marbles or whether we want to play hide and seek or ice boys or some stuff, chore police or something. And just that interaction at that point of time in your life, to collaborate with people, to understand each other, and to actually put your point across in terms of communication and get this across as something huge. The second thing we've learned is we devise a set of rules. We said there's no place on the offside, so only leg side runs. And that's how it was, like adaptation. Or we make two people out of the group into leaders and we decide to follow them, or we are leading them. And much of what we've learned at a young age has been through actually seeing and imitating, which is such an important aspect of learning. things which we actually, this is unstructured play. And out of this, we've learned so much. And if you've played any kind of sport, you would realize if you're playing a football or a cricket, and if you don't pass the ball out to somebody else, after 3 days in the team, nobody is going to like you or nobody is going to take you in the team. And some of the biggest pressures in sport have also come in the gully cricket or in where people taunt you for losing. And it's a big lesson. So for me, equality, I think, especially if you're a rich kid, I think for you to fail is important. And life doesn't actually give so many opportunities for you to fail in a young age. And sport does that repeatedly, telling you that, boss, you might be rich, you might have the best of cars, but when you're on the ground, the guy who has nothing, and he can whack you. And that is an important lesson in equality. A girl can beat you at running, and then that's an important lesson in learning and equality. So I think the lessons which sport gives are huge. And for all of us, I think if there is somebody who runs a 400 meters in a certain amount of time, in a minute, because he knows what it feels to take a task and finish it. And he's definitely going to achieve that only if he has a discipline and a work ethic, which is important. So for me, I think there's a lot of things which sport can make us learn. And I think these are things which cannot be taught in the sense on of in a virtual world or in a world outside of sport. And I might be biased towards sport because I see it in and out transforming lives of people and giving them confidence. So I believe sport is very, very important. And for us to be a visionary on the mental side, you first need to explore the boundaries of your physical being. So I think that's something which I think very strongly about.
Very passionate points there. Thanks, Gopi. Let me turn to Raj now. Raj, what is your take on how much leadership can you teach in a classroom or in an office? And what about leadership can you learn only by being out there in the field? Raj?
So a lot of leadership can be learned. Maybe you can say in the classrooms or maybe through books or something it can be learned. But I'll come back to your second point. But first, before that, I completely agree with Gopi that you name sports or anything, whatever it starts at the early age. So it helps a lot. I would say that leadership starts early actually. So that is one of the factor we consider in our schools. Now I'm no more part of the school change, but I'm trying to explain you that sports, for example, take like basketball, as Gopi said, giving the pass to somebody and this thing. So you should know that how to help the person who can really take a goal, or how you should know how to influence him, or you should know how to handle the failing. So some 50% of the times people lose matches, 50% of them they win if you take a random number. So in addition to the sports, so there are a lot of other activities in the early childhood either parents or schools can do. Is like, for example, a lot of co-curricular activities like debate, project work, which actually 4 or 5 students can do a project work. So the teacher has sent the project work that 4 or 5 teachers, 4 or 5 students should do it together. And right from grade 1, so parents help some extent, and kids also should learn how to work with others. So this actually I learned from ISB when I'm doing my MBA from Indian School of Business. So all of us do a project almost every day. Every day, one of the group discussion, and every one of us to rate everyone, including myself. If I have to rate all other 4 members, I also rate myself also. So there is no scope to escape. Everyone will rate us, and every day. So that helps a lot. These are the ways actually you should know how to build a team, how to lead the team, how to work, how to influence, how to handle failures, and also how to handle if there are any people not supporting. Then coming to your second level, what is that you can't get from schools or universities or whatever it may be, regular courses or whatever it may be. While doing, you get just passion is not enough. You get a lot of obstacles while doing the movement. Like, say, for example, now we are hit with the COVID crisis. So how to handle it? No school can teach. No business school can teach these kind of things and this thing. This is one thing I feel that the grit. Grit is one thing, which is you can call it as a perseverance or reflection or composedness during the crisis, and all these things you have to learn while working. So these things you don't get in the schools and this thing. And the most important factor than this is human engineering. Human engineering can be a little bit part in the HR or something in some good B schools, but that's not enough. So a lot of organizations, lot of leaders script that their teams doesn't have ownership, their teams doesn't have loyalty, their teams doesn't meet deadlines. See, I feel there is absolutely no team issue there. Absolutely no team issue. It is all leaders issue. Leaders should know how to build the ownership. Leaders should know how to build the loyalty. Leaders should know how to get things done. So for me, loyalty and ownership are directly proportional to the level of leadership. And loyalty, ownership, and leadership is directly equal to the performance. That's what I strongly feel. And also, I believe is to get things done, to get tasks done, to get tasks done. Don't focus on goals or tasks, focus on people. To get things done, focus on relationship, not on actual goal. That's how you need to build teams to take the ownership. So unless otherwise they take the ownership, nothing will come, whatever the goals you have. That's what I strong. And also,
Thanks,
I just
Raj.
want to add. I just want to add one point,
Yeah.
Madan. So a lot of times we discuss about in the organizations. I'm sure Gopi also must be having this kind of thing. You have targets, goals. You have to achieve this 100 this or 50 this, whatever it may be. So we call the teams and tell, okay, this year target is 100, this quarter target is 50, maybe this half yearly target is 75, whatever it may be. So it is very difficult to achieve when goals are instructions. Goals cannot be instructions. Goals are supposed to be mutual. Goals are supposed to be negotiations. You need to discuss with team, get them ready and accept those things. And if required, a little bit fine tune. These are the things you get mostly in the practice, not from the school books.
Thanks, Raj. I've got some more questions for both of you, but there's a very good one which is just coming from the audience, which is are leaders born or are leaders made? So my question for you, Gopi, is from your experience, how much of leadership is something innate in you, which you're born with, and how much of it can be groomed in you? What is the mix of what you're born with?
I think
And what
Raj
you
wanted to answer this. I think I'll let Raj answer this.
Okay, Raj, over to you.
Thank you, Gopi. I just want to, sorry for that, jumping into this thing. Leaders are not born. Leaders can be made. So that lot of things can be, a lot of skills are learnable skills. Lot of skills. Only thing what they need to have is a right education to learn, to have the habit of continuous learner. So lot of things can be learned, mother. Lot of things. So I strongly believe, and basic education. If they don't have basic education, that's a challenge. Basic education and little bit of attitude. So that is important. Every skill can be learned. Every skill. That's what I strongly believe.
Gopi, you want to add to that? Born or made? Are you happy with the answer?
I'm happy with the answer. I think as much as a lot of things can be learned, and a lot of things, it's a dynamic process which involves a lot of heart and feeling. But also there is something which I would call also an opening balance. I think some people learn things easily. Some people have a interest to learn things, and that's also important. So for me, I think situations and what people come out is important. But I think most important is the fact that you're in it for the long run. The people who persevere with and have an attitude of learning and moving on, and not staying with either failure or loss, and continue this journey for a lifetime, can see things happen at some point of time. So I've seen phenomenal players at 13, 14, 15. So I went to an under 12 national championships And I was not in the top 15, and it was the national talent search competition. So I wasn't the most talented of that group, but I haven't seen any in the talented group actually make it. But that's also the case with many of the times that we miss people whom we call as talent, and somebody else comes out because there's a desire or there is something else in their lives which have actually triggered a response. So you either work with an attitude of love towards your mission, or you work with an attitude of passion. Passion is also not the, I don't know if it's a Telugu or they call it kasi. So that's the word which I would really, you work with that determination. So in between these two, if the journey continues, you will succeed for sure. And that's, I think, where we would love to have. You should have a goal or a process or a work which you love, and which you also at some point of time, if you don't love it, but you work because you have to prove a point. So these are two areas which you can keep shifting from, and surely if you're in it for a long haul, you will achieve, is what I have seen.
Thanks,
I
Gopi.
just
You
want
mentioned
to
the word. Oh, sure, go ahead. Yeah, Raj. Yes.
I just want to add one example, Madhul, very interesting example which Gopi, which is interesting for Gopi also maybe. So we have two schools in Hyderabad. So one of the school in Hyderabad is always winners or runners in basketball for last 10, 12 years. Last 10, 12 years, they are winners or runners in Hyderabad. The second school never participates in basketball tournament. So they participate, they focus in some other games and sports. And slowly they lost the confidence. So they're not participating because they will not even enter into league competition. They'll lose the competition in the first two games itself. And they say they don't want that failure kind of thing. So 1 year, that happened 3 years back, I believe. 3 years back, I sat with the management of that school and given them a goal of in 100 days. Most important point, in 100 days, think about how can you make winners from your campus, at least winners or runners. I want to beat the other school. Forget about the entire Hyderabad. I want to beat the other school, our own school. So I told them that, and this is a day school. Students don't stay in the boarding or something. We that means we have less control on them. So I told them that I'll give you every resource, whatever you want. And we worked on that. So morning 2 hours. So 8:30 school starts. 6:30 to 8:15 or so they used to play, practice, and evening after 3:30 to 5:30. So the only thing they asked is to build washrooms for them to get shower and to attend the classes morning after the practice and this thing. Thankfully, we have those washrooms in the swimming pool and this thing. They used to use that washroom. Nothing, no infrastructure added. And the same coach. The only thing what happened is from our side that whatever it may be, Gopi said, the kasi or passion, whatever that is instilled in the students, in their coaches, in their teachers, everybody, that is instilled from us that you can work and you can get into this thing. And in 100 days, trust me, they beat all Hyderabad schools and they won the Hyderabad cluster competition and played finals against my own school and won against them. It's happened only in 100 days, where the school doesn't have confidence to participate in the tournament. So this is all made. These are not born.
Yeah. Thanks, Raj. Gopi, a while ago you mentioned the word failure. And failure is a big part, unfortunately, of the journey of many entrepreneurs and startups. In our audience, we have many founders of startups, aspiring entrepreneurs. What is your advice, both of you, advice or tips for the entrepreneurs in the audience on how to deal with failure, how to plan risk around failure, how to deal with it as an emotional issue, how to overcome it and move on? Gopi, you want to start with that?
Okay. For me, I think there's a lot more you can learn from failure than from success, truly. One is going from failure to failure with enthusiasm is what I would call as success. Going from failure to failure with enthusiasm, learning from mistakes of the failure with enthusiasm is what will lead us to success. Now, the worst case scenario is when somebody does the wrong things and gets good results. That's the worst thing which can happen, because that eventually leads you to a problem which can never be solved. So for me, there's nothing like failure as such. I think it's just part of the process that you've not found the right formula yet, and you have to keep pegging at it till you find the right formula. I say this because with a slight anecdote in my own life, when we were playing badminton in the juniors in the 90s, early 90s, 1991. We had breakfast to win All England in 1980. Somehow we didn't believe that any of us in our group can ever become a champion at the world level. But somehow a couple of years later, when I started playing, I started to win. And then there was that bit of confidence that maybe things can be possible. And then 93, 94, I had an anterior cruciate ligament tear of my knee. And then I had another surgery in 94, 96, 98. And then, of course, I finished the career wherever. But people have said that, oh, Gopi, if you didn't have had those injuries, you probably would have been a much better player. Truly, today, contrary to what many have said, I do believe that I am what I am as a player and as a coach because of those injuries and failures. And that, I think, has been the biggest blessing for me, whatever I've learned. So I think failures have a lot of value. You just have to look at it long term, and you have to persevere with it even after the failure. And that's, I think, when you'll be able to tell a happy story at the end of it.
Yeah, while Madani, Rupali, you want to say something? You're on mute, Rupali.
Yes, I think Mr. Rao has got stuck. I think there's some technical problem at his end.
I will take forward.
Well, I think we are more or less like we're about
Okay.
to. I appeared only because I knew that the session was about to get over. But
Okay.
I must tell you, I was listening to you very carefully. This was one of the sessions that I actually heard so carefully, only because I had some two leaders, sitting and giving their.
Do you tell the same thing to every panel?
No, actually, no. Ask them. I have one question. Yes, Mr. Rao is here. But I'm going to take an initiative to ask you one question, because since this is something coming out personally from me, like when you're talking about, you said about the pandemic has no school can teach how to manage the stress because of, what we are going through in this pandemic. You have to have practical knowledges. You need to have, you as leaders, okay, you are leaders, you have created winners. Gopi sir has created winners. You have created so many winners in your campuses. What are leaders doing themselves to manage this stress in pandemic? What extra thing are you doing that can help us? Because if you leader makers, or winner makers are doing something to handle the stress situation that the entire world is facing, what is that extra thing that you're doing? So if I can take it to Raj sir right now.
Yeah. Rupal, I want to just add 1 minute answer to Madan's previous question, but it's very important. There are young entrepreneurs in the Thai and this thing
Please.
about the failing. So I strongly believe that failing doesn't mean failure. And in the entrepreneurship, there has to be a lot of trial and error has to go. A lot of innovation has to happen. Innovation cannot happen without failure. As Gopi said, failure to failure, failure to failure to success kind of thing. It will not happen. So one thing entrepreneurs need to understand and be with the focused mind that entrepreneurship is not gambling. You need to understand the difference between entrepreneurship and gambling. So entrepreneurship is calculated risk. So you are taking that risk knowing I'm okay, even I lose that bet. Gambler puts, if you are familiar with poker, all in. They put all the money in once. That's it. If they lose everything, they lose. So that is the difference between gambler and entrepreneurs. They take calculated risk. Be aware that, expect that we're going to fail. I might lose this. I'm okay with that. So that to answer Rupali's question, this is also some extent the risk level what we take. We will be assessing every time. Is that okay if I fail there, right? So how do we prepare ourselves during crisis? How do we engage?
Prepare so many other people. They are all looking up to you and you.
Yeah.
So what is
one of the thing is bit of recreation that's a open this thing. But beyond that, so personally, I do help a lot of my colleagues and ex-colleagues. So everybody are going through the stress. And see, I learned leadership while I'm helping others because I step into their shoes and I understand their problems and I have to act there and this thing. And when they see, I see their confidence faces when they are achieving their goals, when they are coming out of their problem, that gives me a lot of confidence. But what I suggested them, what I coached them is helping. That is rebuild my confidence during crisis times and this whatever I'm thinking is correct. And sometimes I also fail. There is no this thing, but helping the other teams, maybe my colleagues or my ex-colleagues or maybe known people, whoever it may be, that's a great thing I do, particularly during crisis times.
Wow. Okay. And so, Gopichand sir, if you can enlighten us with your that what has kept you going in a stressful situation like this, where world was freaking out and losing their pebbles. What were you doing? How did you manage to keep that level up always and sanity for that matter?
I think honestly, it sounds strange, and I know I say it in an open platform, but this 6 months have been the best time of my life. I have not traveled. I have not traveled. I've been traveling for the last maybe 30 odd years. So for me, there's been no travel. I spent a lot of time with myself. I could work on myself physically and mentally. Got time to do things which I've always wanted to. Connected with more people during this time, with a lot of students more, thanks to the platforms. I've been able to actually meet more people and interact with more kids than I actually done. So things have been very productive at my end, and it's actually been. Sometimes we always want time, and when we get it, we don't know. But I've really enjoyed it,
Very
and I
nice.
believe that for all of us, I think this is a time where we need to come back. Whenever world comes back to normal, we need to have ourselves in a better shape physically and mentally to take on the challenges. And that's what, as leaders, if we can do to our students, to our friends and family, I think the best gift we can give them is for us to be stronger physically and mentally at the end of this pandemic.
And the last question to you, Gopi sir. What, in simple words, if you can answer me, what exactly is X factor that you look out to make winners, which you have
It's
given
a,
to the country right now? So I want to know, simple words, what exactly is X factor in a winner?
as a coach, you need to find that person. You need to have the instinct to pick who the horse is and back the horse completely. And that would be very, very important. Uh,
Well
yeah.
said. Well said. Thank you so much, gentlemen. It was a wonderful session. It was one of my favorite sessions that I did, and I'm truly telling you this. It's about leadership, and thank you. I wish you all the very best. Thank you, Mr. Rao. You were wonderful moderating this
Yeah,
entire.
thanks. I thought you cut me off over there, but I think it was my capacity. Just joking.
You went off. That is why I had to come off. But yes, it was my sign to also wrap up because I'm getting a back-end teams signaling me because there's another panel waiting. But this session, this entire panel discussion was fantastic and to another level. I hope my viewers out there, there are millions of viewers watching you guys, must have picked up the pointer that is needed. And I'm truly honored to be between both of you. Thank you so much. And
Thank
have
you,
a very
Rupali.
good time. Please take care
Thanks,
of
Naj.
yourself.
Thanks, Gopi. Thanks, Rupali. Bye. Bye.